Hey, thanks for joining me today. Today is the end of December 2020, and if you have done any canning this summer, you probably know that we're experiencing a national shortage on conventional canning lids. I can't buy them at all in my area. So I decided to experiment with some reusable canning lids. Now, over the years, I have considered buying some of these, but for one reason or another, I didn't. I've read some people have trouble with them, and they are a bigger upfront cost, even though in the long run, as long as you're using them correctly, they will come to be about the same or maybe a little bit less than if you're buying conventional canning lids. I decided to go with Harvest Guard reusable canning lids. Tattler is more famous, more people know them, but when I went to their website, they claim they have lots of product, but they're having trouble getting it shipped out to everyone. So I did place an order, but I haven't received those. Harvest Guard, on the other hand, they claim the same thing. They have plenty of product, but shipping times are delayed, but I did receive mine in the mail fairly promptly. So those are the ones I tried out. So first of all, let me just show you. They come just in a bag like this, and I bought a mixture of narrow and wide mouth. And this is what they look like. So here's the rubber gasket, just standard rubber, and here's a regular lid. They also have wide mouth. And they fit together like this when you use them. Now, something I've heard a lot is, I could never use those, they're plastic. Yeah, they are. But I have news for you. If you use conventional canning lids, here are some curves that I just happen to still have on hand. This part is metal, but on the other side, that's plastic. Hate to break it to you. So now if you can your own food, a lot of us, we're pretty health conscious. That's one of the reasons we can and grow our own food and all that kind of stuff. And so you probably know that plastic, particularly plastic that is heated, can leach chemicals into your food. And we know that some of those chemicals can alter your hormones and maybe some other things. So yeah, not a great thing, right? When you have your canning jar full of food, the food typically isn't touching the lid, but during processing, it bubbles up and it is touching the lid. So, all the manufacturers now that I'm aware of, at least, say that they are, let's see if it says on here. Yeah, it says it's BPA free. And that's because several years back, there were lots of news stories about how bad BPA plastic was for our health. And so pretty much everybody has now converted their lids and, tin cans and things like that when you buy food at the grocery store to non-BPA. But what maybe you might not know is that there are studies showing that it's those plastics that are being substituted may be just as problematic. So I did want to read you what Harvest Guard says on their website about what kind of plastic they use. It says, Harvest Guard reusable plastic canning lids are manufactured using an FDA and USDA approved food-grade plastic, generally referred to as, and I'll probably mispronounce this, but polyoxymethylene copolymer, or POM, or acetyl copolymer. It is comprised of a BPA-free plastic compound that's safe for direct contact with food products and has been used extensively in the food and medical industries since the 1940s. Okay, so maybe this is better. I can't really say. I tried to do some additional research, but it didn't give me any information that was different or more detailed than what their website has proclaimed. So there's a couple things you need to know, though. You do not want to use any food that is 15% or more alcohol with these lids. So no tinctures or booze. And you don't want the temperature to exceed 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So they are safe for pressure canning or water bath canning. I do want to add that there should be an American company out there that addresses this problem of plastic and home canning. There is a big market out there. Almost everybody who cans is concerned about this. There is a big market out there for a new way or a new product to can without exposing your food to plastic. Maybe that's to go back to the old gasket jars that our grandmothers or great-grandmothers used, where you just change out the rubber gaskets pretty much every time you can. That would be great. I would go for that. I have looked into WEC jars, which are that basic idea, but the problem with those, first of all, they aren't, as far as I can tell, approved for pressure canning. But additionally, they're very expensive. They're cost prohibitive. And I think that's primarily because they're coming out of Germany. So we need an American-made product that will fit the bill. Somebody work on that. I chose to just can water the first time. That way, if I messed up somehow and they didn't seal, I wasn't wasting any food. And let me tell you, this is what they look like when they are done. See, oh, there we go. They sealed really well. You're supposed to be able to just take your thumbs and push up and open them. I can't even. This is a really good seal. My husband can open them that way, but not me. I ordered some Church Key jar openers for that purpose. They're supposed to be safe. They won't damage the plastic or the rubber. The rubbers with these, by the way, while they are reusable, when they start to show wear, you do want to replace them because otherwise you're just not going to get a good seal. So as I said, they come to you in a bag like this. You're going to wash them in warm soapy water. The directions that come with them say that you're sterilizing them. You're not. First of all, if you're using a modern day approved, tested, safe canning recipe, you're going to process your jars for at least 10 minutes. That sterilizes your lids. That's true even with conventional canning lids. You do not need to sterilize your jars or lids as long as you're using a modern, tested, safe recipe, which will process your jars for 10 minutes or longer. But once you wash your lids and your rubbers is the old-fashioned way they say it, your rubber gaskets like this, you're going to want to put them in a pot of hot water, put it on the stove. I do put the gaskets in their little groove on the lid, but sometimes they come out. That's just kind of the way it goes. You are going to want to have tongs in order to get them out of that hot water. You're going to bring the water almost to a boil, and then you're going to reduce the heat and let them sit there for a little bit. And the idea is you need that rubber to soften so that it can sort of mold to the rim of your jar. All right, I have filled my jar, and I always like to take a little bit of vinegar on my paper towel and wipe the rim. Basically everything so far, as far as putting things in the jar, is exactly as it would be if you were using a conventional lid. Now with my tongs, I have grabbed a lid with the gasket in place. Things are hot when you're using these reusable canning lids, I will warn you. So I just want to make sure that the rubber gasket is centered nicely on the rim of the jar. And then you're going to take just your ordinary ring, like you would use in a conventional canning lid, and you're going to take one finger and hold that lid in place, and with the other you're going to twist the ring. And when the jar starts to turn like that, then I can release the lid, but we need it just a little bit more tight, so we just twist it once more with our wrist. It's like a quarter turn. And then this is just going to go in the canner. I have processed my crab apples and I pulled them out of the canner. Now I need to wait 5 to 10 minutes for the jars to cool just slightly. But while we're at this stage, a really important thing to note is whether the lids appear normal like they did before you canned with them. So, you know, they're relatively flat. They kind of, I don't know if you can see, but this part is raised and this part is just slightly down. That's the way you want them to look right now on the jars. If they look domed or like there's a hill in the center, that's a problem. That means that you put the rings on too tight, and you just want to let those jars sit there and cool. You will not follow the next step, which is going to be to tighten the rings. And then what you're going to do is tighten all your rings. This is going to ensure a good seal on these jars. Neglecting to do this might lead to seal failure. Once you've tightened the rings, you're just going to cover the jars with a towel and let them sit there and come to room temperature, which is usually going to be overnight. So see you tomorrow. It's the next day and my jars are at room temperature, so I can uncover them, and that's what they look like, right? We're going to check all the seals now, so we just need to take off the screw bands and lift the jars by just the lid. That's how you know they're sealed. It's not like a standard or a conventional canning lid that you can press in the center and you can feel if there's like a little bubble there. It's just not like that. You just have to lift it up by the seal only to make sure that you have a good seal. I do want to mention too, I talked yesterday about how if there's a dome or a hill in the center when you first take the jars out of the canner, that means your rings were on too tight and you don't want to tighten the rings. But I didn't say why. The reason is there's going to be nowhere for the pressure to go in the jar, so tightening the rings could actually make the lids fly off, or liquid, which would be very hot at that point, comes spurting out, so it's dangerous. If you did for some reason tighten your rings too tight and you had a bulge, at this time hopefully that bulge is down, but you should either reprocess that food or refrigerate it or freeze it or eat it right away. That jar's good. Let's check the others. Yep, perfect. Yep. Both times I have used the Harvest Guard lids, everything has sealed perfectly. I am very pleased. Once you understand that the process is slightly different to get these lids to seal, I just haven't had any troubles at all. I did go ahead last night and order a larger batch of these lids just in case, you know, the lid shortage continues on, which it looks like it may. I do want to let you know that I have an affiliate link in the description for these lids if you're interested in them, but please do note that I did not get paid for this review. This is an honest review. Just, you know, I am seeking a solution to the lid shortage just like everybody else, and I did want to test these out before I recommended them to anybody. If you enjoyed this content, if you have questions, leave comments, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It really helps. And I hope to see you here next time. Bye.